Joining us to talk cybersecurity, the man from Security in Depth. His name is Michael Connory. When you and I were talking just before we started this interview, you said to me you were as mad as hell. We didn't get a chance to find out why, so come on.
So I am mad as hell. We've just had a look at a whole range of statistics from the Australian government. And the first statistic, which comes from the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, the OAIC, is that every single day, 32,000 Australians have had their personal information compromised in a data breach that has involved an Australian company.
Dear.
Now,
Alarming.
it is alarming, but what's more alarming is it's not just for the last week or for the last month or even for the last year. This is for the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, Australian organisations have had to communicate to 24 million times. That's 1 million times a month. That's 32,000 times a day where you've lost your personal information.
Why are we struggling to look after our all-important IP? Why is it that corporate Australia is just not getting the message? What have we done in the design of our IT systems that leaves us so prone and so open to attack?
Over the last 12 months, over 2 million individuals across Australia, 2,012,000 around there, have been impacted by identity theft.
So more than 2 million.
More than 2 million individuals.
Identity theft in Australia.
Over the last 12 months.
And we still aren't addressing it.
And we're not addressing it. Now, the Australian government have put $1.6 billion away for cybersecurity, the big cybersecurity strategy.
Now that sounds like a lot of money, but is it or isn't it in real terms?
It's not. It's not even close to real.
So you're saying to me it's almost a drop in the ocean.
It is.
What should we be spending, and what does the government need to do? And more importantly, what do we need to ask of the government?
Well,
should we be making a bigger noise and saying to government and others, hey, listen, you've asked us to all move to this IT world, this whole new world of the internet, but if you can't protect us, then we're going to stop using it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, think of this. Here's some other statistics for you, just to, as I said, add to the alarm. Okay, in Australia and New Zealand, so this is Australia and New Zealand, every single day, there are 10,000 spam phone calls trying to scam individuals.
Well, I can vouch for that. I've had a number of them in the last few days, and I'm thinking to myself, why this spike? And you're saying to me it's because the data breaches are being engineered by teams of cyber criminals intent on doing what? Stealing our identity, stealing our numbers?
Stealing our identity, stealing our information. That the value of information today, the value of data, it's more valuable than oil and gold.
Okay, so do I answer the phone when it rings or not?
When you receive a call from an unknown number? No.
How do I know it's not an avatar posing as that
Well,
person?
that's true, and that can happen.
And we're seeing that a lot in Facebook and other...
And we're seeing that a lot. It doesn't cost anything. It literally doesn't cost anything for a Russian hacker or a Chinese hacker or somebody from Iran or whomever to be able to clone your phone number and call somebody.
Okay, Michael Connory, you've scared the hell out of me. What do we need to do about it? I know you and I have been talking about trying to get people, when they see something on their email, to make sure that they know for a start that it's a legitimate and genuine email that's been sent from a secure source before they click on it. You've said to me that's been one of the great anomalies in business, that they're not teaching enough of their staff and their people to have a safety first attitude whenever they're accepting. And I suppose in the midst of a very busy day, you're trawling through the emails to see the ones that you need to address.
Absolutely.
And it's very easy to press the wrong one.
It's very easy to press the wrong one.
So
not simply on your email, but on your phone as well.
Well, I think that's an even harder one, because you're doing 3 or 4 different things. Phone rings, you reach for it, press the button. You're saying to us that can open a myriad of problems.
There's 2 things here.
Right.
Okay, the first one is that corporate Australia needs to take and be accountable, and they're not. They're not even close to being accountable.
Well, how do we make them accountable?
We need to regulate. There's no doubt about it that we need to have stronger regulations. We need to have a government that is more focused on being able to regulate, enforce and support small businesses across Australia. Yeah, it does. $1.6 billion over the next 10 years. This last year, Peter Dutton himself stated that the cost of cybercrime to Australia was $36 billion. So they're spending $1.6 billion over the next 10 years to combat something that is costing the Australian public $36 billion a year. Not only is that occurring, $3 billion is lost in identity theft every year. Okay. And the banks are taking the...
Okay, let's make it as simple as we possibly can. How many layers of protection do you need to feel some measure of safety, some measure of calm? And we're talking now about your internet at home, because so many people during COVID were forced to work from home. So how many layers of security should I have?
Three.
Three.
You need to have antivirus, anti-malware.
Right.
You need to have a password manager.
Password manager, which you've talked about before.
Which is important to be able to manage and make sure you don't use the same password over and over and over again.
So this generates different...
And this generates different passwords and secures those.
But keeps them in place. So if you want to go to that site, it tells you which one it's using. Okay. And the third
one is multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication.
Which can be cumbersome.
It may be cumbersome, but it protects
you. You're saying
you.
It saves us.
It saves you 99% of the time.
You know, Michael, you and I have discussed this time and time again. And the thing that comes back to is zonal comfort. Most people, when they're in that zone, just pick up the phone, hit the computer, the laptop or whatever, and they don't pause to ponder the challenges that could unveil themselves if they did the wrong thing. We don't think we're not trained that way. Should we be doing it from much younger at school? Should we be having cybersecurity lessons in class?
We must have cybersecurity lessons in class. But here's when I talk about corporate Australia, and let's talk about globally.
Yep.
The SolarWinds hack. Did you hear about the SolarWinds hack?
No.
So the SolarWinds hack, it's believed that the Chinese hacked SolarWinds. This is an organisation that sends and shares and sells software to governments across the world, including the Australian government, including some of the major federal government departments.
Security company has been hacked.
And guess how they were hacked?
Go on.
Right? And this really annoys me. Again, mad as hell. They've blamed an intern because an intern put a password on GitHub, which is an open forum, and the password to access SolarWinds was SolarWinds1234. And that enabled, essentially, allegedly Chinese hackers to access the organisation and then laterally go through the entire organisation, which to put compromised code in the patching and the updates, which get sent out to government departments and to major organisations.
So malware throughout everything.
Throughout the world now.
Can we claw back and pick up that malware, pick up those security defects that have been created?
We can, but the challenge with that, it's already been done.
Right.
And this is the real challenge. These hacks have already been done. People have utilised a password that is SolarWinds1234. It's ridiculous. And Equifax in the US was a very similar event. The blood service in Australia didn't even have a password when the 700,000 blood bank recipients had their data compromised on the web.
Okay, so if we're starting tomorrow, what is the best advice possible? You said to me, we need a manager for all our passwords. So, the one that you keep going to is...
we use Dashlane. Dashlane is, from our perspective, one of the world's best password management solutions.
Okay, and works almost seamlessly, yeah? That's one element. Two,
You need to be able to implement multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
You have to
So
have
that's
it.
a big driver for you.
It needs to be on your social media, it needs to be on your email, it needs to be on your Gmail. It's free, it doesn't take long, and once it's there, it generally sits in the background and it doesn't annoy you as most people think.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and 3, just make sure you've got the latest antivirus or anti-malware sitting on your system.
So what Michael's saying is update.
But that's an individual. At a corporate level, we're seeing, and this is one of the reasons why I'm mad as hell. Out of all of these data breaches, out of the OAIC, recognises 1,000 data breaches a year, but the ACCC sees something like 10,000. We see quadruple that. So there's 40, 50,000 data breaches every single year, which are impacting Australian citizens.
These are tough times for corporate Australia too, because they've been impacted on about 50 different levels through the COVID thing. I can understand people feeling overwhelmed. And you might quote Peter Finch in that film Network, which won him an Academy Award and did so very well to leave a legacy. And it's one of those famous moments in movie land. Everyone goes, oh yeah, it's Peter Finch. So whenever you've reached out, that it tells me that you despair because you've been talking with us for the better part of the last 8 months, 9 months, telling us almost the same thing time and time again, and yet nothing seems to be moving forward. Where's the Ombudsman? Where are our regulators? Where are they?
They're not doing anything. In all honesty, the OAIC, with all of their power, everything that they've done, okay, with managing the mandatory data breach legislation, out of the thousands and thousands of data breaches that they've seen, they've only taken one organisation to task. One. Out of thousands of organisations that have been involved in data breaches, impacting tens of millions of people. Only one organisation, and that's I think it's the Department of Human Services. When they when they published the information on refugees that were trying to come into Australia. Illegals.
Yeah. Just makes you wonder sometimes, doesn't it?
It does.
We talk about ethics, we talk about morals, we talk about good practices, and we also talk about fit for purpose. And from the sound of it, there are so many IT defence systems out there that just aren't designed to do anything, let alone defend your home or your business.
It comes down to the individuals and the leadership of these organisations.
Right. There you go, Michael Connory, not only warning us, but giving us an inkling of just how frustrated he is with the lack of initiative being shown at so many levels in this country. Michael Connory says, look after your own business, look after your home, yourself, don't leave it to others. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, George. Thanks, George.